The yo-yo dynamic is a cyclical, very, very difficult, hellish experience that you can have in a love relationship with a person, especially with your specific person, or really with anybody in your life, in your family. You can also have a yo-yo dynamic with parts of your life. And so when you learn how to heal this in some area of your life, or even with a specific person, you can also learn how to heal this vicious cycle or yo-yo dynamic that you may be experiencing, in lack with other areas of your life too. So it's really like this bigger healing of a pattern and manifesting um, what you are meant to manifest in a big and pretty awesome way. The breaking of a cycle is the thing that needs to happen in order for you to actually be able to, break out of your current limitations and manifest your potential, whether that's in, like I said, a relationship or some other area of your life, or even with yourself. We can all experience vicious cycles and yo-yo dynamics when it comes to just about anything. So sometimes we're in a roller coaster with other people, but you'll notice that you're also in a roller coaster with yourself. So I manifested, stick with me here. I manifested vicious, horrible, difficult, hellish, detrimental, negative cycles and yo-yo dynamics and vicious cycles in many, many relationships my entire life. And finally, it reached a peak. And I said to myself, I've got to break the cycle. Because as you know, it was quite unbearable and there was nowhere to go and it was completely detrimental. And I knew I had to break the cycle, and I did. And I'm saying this about, including the fact that this was something that was going on my entire life in many different relationships, not every single one, but I had this terrible, vicious cycle dynamic with many, many relationships in my life. And I want you to know that it doesn't matter how long that this has been going on or if it's a lifelong pattern. I'm going to teach you how to break this pattern because here you are. You're meant to break the pattern. If you're watching this video, you are meant to learn how to break this pattern, and I'm going to teach you how. Recently, I had a one-to-one client get on the phone with me, and she was telling me about this vicious yo-yo cycle, yo-yo dynamic pattern that she had with her person. And she was telling this to me, and she clearly just didn't think that anybody could make any sense of it. She was hoping that I could help her. She thought I was probably the only one that could help her. But as she was telling this to me, you could see that she really, really couldn't make sense of it. And she didn't know if anybody could. And I just listened. And when she was done, I told her, look, I know exactly what's going on here, and I know how to help you. And she was so thrilled. And let this be that for you. Okay. It is not as difficult or as complicated as you think to break a yo-yo dynamic vicious cycle. The yo-yo dynamic vicious cycle is literally there to teach you something. Okay. So I'm going to get into that. Make sure that you watch this video all the way until the end, because these cycles can last years and years and years and years and take years to figure out, and some people actually never figure them out. So just make sure you watch till the end of the video, because I'm gonna say things that are really going to help you. Don't skip out on this. All right. Okay. So the reason why the yo-yo dynamic vicious cycle happens is, first of all, if this happens to you, and if you are watching this video, I absolutely promise you that you have decided and you are working towards coming into a more full embodiment of unconditional love. If you're attracted to my teachings, if you feel pulled to my teachings, and if you're experiencing this relationship that's a cycle that pulls on your heartstrings that you can't understand mentally, this is a journey that is taking you deeper and deeper into a soul-connected, unconditional love. That is what you are learning to embody, okay? What creates the yo-yo dynamic is, first of all, of course, you know that your beliefs manifest and your fears manifest and your doubts manifest. Yesterday, I came out with a video talking all about that, how we manifest from the ego, I explained, and then how your fears and egoic limitations and ideas are going to play out and be shown to you on the screen of space. And then it conflicts with your inner knowing on a soul level of like what you know is supposed to be and like what you know is the truth and what you know is right, you know? So that is what is happening here in a vicious cycle yo-yo dynamic that you're trapped inside and you don't know how to get out of it. So when you have fears within you on the ego level that you haven't gotten wiser to, right? That you haven't quite seen for what they are and effectively dismissed or dismantled or dissolved, your fears will play out. It's like you will be challenged by your fears. There will be this sort of like game of chicken, you know, that your fears are going to manifest on the screen of space and you're going to have an opportunity to call them out. So what happens with the yo-yo is the fears play out. That's like the bad swing that you'll notice. You're like, oh no, this thing happened. And you care about it and it affects you because that thing, you have a connection to that thing. Like that thing represents your fear. So like you already believe in it on some level. So you're when you're seeing it, you're just buying into it instead of knowing that it doesn't matter, right? So it's relevant to you. You get sucked into believing that reality. That's why you have a negative reaction. And then when you don't break the fact that you're taking this whole thing as real, right? When you don't stop doing that, the cycle continues. Because what's the other end of the cycle? The other end of the cycle is your soul is saying, this thing and this person is relevant to me, and I'm going to continue feeling drawn back to it because I am being shown here something that I want to learn and I am meant to learn. And I want to learn unconditional love. What's unconditional love again? Unconditional love is like you learning to transcend circumstances in your life manifestationally. Like you're coming, unconditional love is you embodying an energy that transcends all circumstances. And then what happens? And then circumstances change once you transcend them with unconditional love. So you want to learn unconditional love because you want this love connection with your person or with the situation that you're dealing with, right? You want a love connection with the situation that is unconditional, that is real, right? So the problem with the yo-yo dynamic is when you are believing in the ego-based stories and fears and doubts, they'll play out and they'll continue to play out. And, oh my God, he's not changing. Oh my God, I'm so unloved, whatever it may be. Look at the evidence. I hate this thing. Why can't it be any other way? Why is it this hellish cyclical torture over and over? That's what hell is. Hell is the same torture over and over again. If you have that going on, you're functioning from ego. You're lost in the ego mind illusory story. It's not even real. But when it's happening in a cyclical manner, it's happening in a cyclical manner because you don't know that it's not real. Okay? So the point of the cycle is to show you the same lie over and over and over again so that you can revisit it until you change your mind about what you're seeing. And the reason why you keep wanting to go back to that thing is because your heart is saying, I want to be unconditional. I want to be in love. I want to transcend circumstances. I want to transcend all things. I want to make this work. I want to be a beacon of love that can heal the situation. I want to be that amazing, unconditional manifester. I want to manifest that love. So you keep going back because this is something that you want. You have to learn at the ego mind level how to stop believing in what you're seeing when you're seeing the fears and the doubts and the definitions, the labels, whatever it is that you're labeling your person. I swear there's no label that actually matters. I'll tell you something that I had to personally do to break the cycle. And I'm always connected to infinite intelligence. Infinite intelligence is always teaching me and guiding me and telling me what to do. I realize over the years that my experience of that is a little bit different than other people. That's why I'm here helping you guys, right? But I had to stop looking at all the reality-based relationship coach type psychology teachings in order to actually accomplish the breakage of the cycle that I wanted to accomplish, in order to change my story and see it another way. All of those things that are, and this is a little bit tricky, okay, so I'm going to continue explaining, but all of that reality-based, hey, if somebody does this, they don't like you. Hey, if somebody does this, they're a narcissist. Hey, if the disclaimer here, if somebody is hurting and abusing you, get away from them. I'm never ever saying let someone hurt and abuse you. I'm never ever saying put yourself in danger whatsoever at all. Take care of yourself and be safe all the time. Okay. My situation was not like that. Like I've never been in danger, but it's hard to explain because the ego says there's no other way to see this. The ego says this person is a jerk and this thing is wrong and that thing needs to change. Your ego says that thing is the problem. That thing has to fix. Well, what we know about manifesting is that we create our own reality. We create our own reality. And so if you want to create change, you have to change. That's very, 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 very hard, impossible, and difficult for the ego. The ego will not accept that. And so, but notice that when you feel negative emotion about your person or your situation, that you're simultaneously, as you feel bad about the situation, you're simultaneously blaming. Feeling bad about the situation, and I talked about how detrimental that is yesterday in my video in this podcast yesterday, okay? You're always, always, always going to feel bad when you're either blaming or in victim mode. One of those things is always happening when you're feeling bad and when you're feeling like this is an impossible problem with no solution. Blaming in victim mode is the opposite of manifesting. If you're doing that, you will not be able to be a deliberate creator, turn things around, change things. Period. The end. It will never ever happen. And what will continue to happen? The cycle will continue to happen. That you will ensure with that mindset of blame and victim, being a victim, you will ensure that the cycle continues. Pain is to help wake you up. If you are not willing to see things differently, Pain will make you willing systematically, turning up the dial, turning up the heat, dragging you through the mud more and more and more, making it more intense, making it more difficult until you're willing to surrender the ego and ask, what needs to be the way? What do I need to change? What can I do? Following your heart is important. But if you follow your heart, which is the pull that you feel back to them and the way that you can't forget about them and the way that you just realize no matter what, that you still love them even though you don't want to. See, I know all about it. As much as you hate them, you love them. As much as you don't want to love them, you still love them. As much as you want to get away from them, something inside you knows that it's not right. And it's this hellish confliction. That's important, not to shut off your feeling and your guidance. It is equally important that you learn to look at the fears and the doubts and the stories that the ego creates, how the ego makes you into a victim and blames the other and takes no accountability, and how the blame of the ego and everything that the ego is doing 100% is keeping you from changing your story. Because you just think that they're the problem. Like I said, that's unconsciousness. So how did I break the cycle? I'll just tell you. Well, I told you I had been creating cycles my entire life, but it started to become more and more abundantly clear that this was a pattern. And I was like, I'm creating a pattern. That in itself is hard. But at some point it becomes abundantly clear, when you manifest multiple different relationships and a lot of them look pretty darn the same, right? It doesn't even have to be all of them being the same, but a lot of them look the same. And then you also notice, if you're in tune energetically, if you're looking at the energy, which is what manifesting is, right? What everything is. If you're looking at the energy, you're like, this other seemingly unrelated thing feels like that too. And the relationship that I have with myself feels that way too. I know the relationship that I have with this aspect of my life feels that way too. Interesting. There's a lot of cycles happening here. A cycle is just the battle between heart and mind, intuition and mind, soul and ego. It's this battle, right? So I broke the cycle. Dude, I mean, the universe has put me through a lot of boot camps. I'll just tell you that, okay? But this leading up to breaking this cycle completely was its own unique boot camp. It was very, very, very painful and debilitating. There were some times when I couldn't do things that I just needed to be able to do, And so, but at the same time, I was very, very, very committed and dedicated to following my guidance. And I was very, very, very committed to not turning something off and not ignoring something, and essentially like not just taking the easy way out, because I was committed to learning and deepening my awareness. I was committed to becoming masterful, as opposed to shoving it down and severing it and calling it a day and living in my ego and letting my ego make it all better for me. Did my ego play things out? Yeah. Did I always come back to, no, I'm going to follow what I know is the right thing? Yes. That's what matters, is that when, like ultimately, you allow your soul to speak to you and guide you. And so a lot of people find this difficult because like harsh words have been exchanged. Like difficult things have been said, difficult things have been done. And sometimes we don't know how to forgive. And sometimes we don't know if the other person will forgive us. And sometimes we don't want to see this person or be connected to this person because we still have resentment and hate in our heart, right? We still have pain in our heart. What's important initially is your intention. Your intention has to be to become more aware, not less, to live from soul, not ego, to listen to your guidance, not ego. You have to want to grow and learn what you are supposed to learn and grow from. You have to want to grow and learn and be aware and transcend the lies and the fears and the doubts more than anything else. And I wanted that. And so that enabled me to, even though like I had to go through some more cycles, right? That enabled me to systematically, gradually over time, gain the abilities and the awareness that I needed in order to finally eventually break the cycle. And, you know, it it didn't take me all that long to do, but inside of the like compared to what usually it takes other people, right? When they're not really assisted. Um, but like I said, some people I've seen people in this cycle for 4 years, 7 years, 10 years, 30 years, never get out of it. And they just give up. They let the ego tell them, yeah, yeah, it's just not meant to be. Or yeah, yeah, like it's not important to make it happen. Like, not that outcomes are important. The growth is what's important. The awareness is what's important. Not giving up on this task of deepening into unconditional love. That's the lesson. That's important. All right, it's really important not to give up on that. Why do you think that you feel so connected to a person? Because you're meant to. They are your inspiration, your reason to grow, your reason to put your ego away and rise above that, your reason to get past your fears. They are your reason, your motivation towards your higher purpose, towards your journey to self, towards something that you would never discover if you didn't really love them. I've been working on unconditional love for a long time, but the universe brought me someone new that I manifested, I asked for specifically. And after meeting this person, I realized that this person had brought me and taken me farther than I had ever come before, spiritually, on a soul level, on a masterful level, on an energetic level, on a learning level, on a teaching level. And the reason is because I never loved anyone enough to let them be my reason to learn and grow this much, because we need to be motivated by something, and love is a great motivator. So if you are greatly motivated by someone in love, that is a good thing. They're helping you grow. Sometimes people don't help you grow by teaching or telling you. Sometimes they help you grow by being a impossible, formidable force. They help you by misbehaving, by never cooperating. The densest people and situations teach you the most if you are mature and you choose to deepen and you choose to take the lesson and you choose to grow. Sometimes manifesting your person is not easy, because sometimes There are levels of your own ego, levels of your own fear, levels of your own doubts that you have to transcend in order to have that level of unconditional love. So I found myself in the middle of an impossible cyclical problem. And I had all the negative feelings that you can imagine, which is not okay with me. I'm not that person. But at the same time, I'm very much connected to my guidance, and I was not going to jump ship. I was not going to pretend that I didn't know that I'm supposed to be here. I wasn't going to pretend that I didn't know, because I do. I know what it feels like to know. So I was devout to the path, not the person, the path. I saw, yeah, don't make it about the person. You do that, no, it's not about the person. It's about the path, the reason behind the connection, the reason it's relevant, the reason you're supposed to grow from it. Okay? I honored the connection on a soul level. I honored what I knew on a soul level. Okay? So I kept asking to be aware, to be aware. And every time that I did my very, very best to identify when I was in ego. I've been talking to you guys about this for a long time on this channel now. I did my very, very best to identify when I was functioning from ego, and I did my very, very best to function and live and be from soul. At some point, I had to, this is just for me, okay? It doesn't have to happen this way for you. But at some point, I had to let my fears and my doubts and my stories fully play out. It's like I had to call bluff on it. I had to the ego's like, oh, this is impossible and just get rid of this person. At some point, I had to test that out, like really test it out. Like I said, your fears and your egoic stories, if you don't dissolve your limiting beliefs, your ego stories and fears, if you don't dissolve them with the light of your presence and awareness and willingness to dissolve them, just with your awareness, if you don't see through it and past it with the light of your consciousness, they will play out. You will side with the ego at some point. You'll say, fuck it. Fuck, I don't need this. And I'm never going back to this. And I have an abundance of reasons why. I should have done this a long time ago. Sound familiar? What kind of an idiot am I? Obviously, this is like nothing. Okay. So I had to let, and by reality-based standards and psychological and all that stuff that we're being told by people that are not trying to teach you how to learn on a soul level or transcend on a soul level or evolve on a soul unconditional love level. And like I said, there's a very big difference between that and being walked all over and being assaulted and abused, right? Let's not get it twisted, okay? So I let the ego play out, my ego. I let the ego break the cycle. I knew I wanted to break the cycle. My ego wanted to break the cycle. I let my ego break the cycle. Guess what? Once the ego played out, once you let the ego play out, you're going to see what's real and what's not. Because when it's all said and done, you know what happens? The truth comes out. And what was the truth? For a few days, I didn't feel anything. I'm a feeler. I feel everything. Energetic master. I feel everything. But eventually those feelings did come back around. I didn't see it as a problem. I saw it as information. I was like, oh, shoot. I guess that's still relevant, huh? Guess I'm not off the hook. I guess I'm not off the hook. Okay, I'm listening. I started listening. Okay, I'm listening. And it's like, it is what it is. Like, okay, I accept that. I acknowledge that. Okay. You want to be smart? You want to grow? You want to be more aware? You want to be more enlightened? You want to do things the easy way, not the hard way? Just start listening to that little voice that knows. Just let the ego stop fighting with all the messages. Stop telling you all the reasons why they're awful. It can't work. It's never going to work. All the reasons why you're mad at them, all the conditional thinking, all the limitations, all the this, that, the other, the if, ands, and buts, and the calculating and the plussing and the minusing. That's not no soul speak. That's not the way the soul works, functions. That's not the way of the soul. That's the way of the very limited human. Soul is so beyond that. Universe is so beyond that. Transcendence, unconditional love. Unconditional love is not about letting someone walk all over you. It's not about serving someone until you are blue in the face. Unconditional love begins with you loving yourself enough to truly allow yourself to love another person because you want to such a degree that you allow the ego and the fears and the doubts and the stories to dissolve. And how did I do that? And I'll tell you, but I want you to know that like fear and doubt and that negative story, all the negative stories and negative feelings and negative things that you tell yourself about your person are demonstrations that you don't love yourself enough to just give yourself what you want and allow yourself to believe and experience and inherit the fullness of this love. Love yourself enough to allow yourself to engage in unconditional love. Love yourself enough to let yourself love them because you already do. So like when someone is relevant for you and like you're meant to love them on a soul level, loving them is a loving action towards yourself. And it doesn't like it's not conditional. You can keep your distance from people and still know that you love them and that you bear no negativity and that you're not judging them, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they don't get out of bed. It doesn't matter what's going on up here in their own mind space and their ego and their lies and their illusions. You know what matters? That you know their soul, that you know them on a soul level, that you know you on a soul level, and you know them on a soul level. You ignore everything else. It doesn't matter. You keep whatever distance that you want. So I was drawn back to this person and I swallowed my ego. I knew that I had broken a cycle, even though I had done it using my ego. Like I said, you can break a cycle by letting the ego play out, or you can break a cycle before the ego plays out by dissolving the ego before the ego plays out. Okay, and there might be many layers and cycles to this. So I started eating my ego. I mean, like, not letting it run me, right? I started being humble, more humble. I've been humble, but more humble and listening the best that I could and being the best that I could. I did the practice that I explained yesterday in my video where I separated myself from the human that was playing out and I watched the human. I watched how the human felt. I watched how like the things the human was doing. I watched like the point of view of the human, where the human was functioning from, because I felt trapped in the cycle still. Even though I knew I had broken a cycle, like I still felt trapped within it too. And I wasn't wrong. Like I was on the precipice of breaking the cycle completely. But so I followed the connection back to love. But there was a lot of things that just didn't feel right too. There was like a lot more to sort out. And I found myself in complete debilitating pain. And I do not accept like myself being debilitated because I have things to do. And I don't mean that in like a selfish way. I mean like I'm living a purposeful life and I have to function and I have to function well. And that means I have to learn things very fast. So I do. So that's one of the beliefs that helped me is like, well, I just learn everything very, very quickly because it's like, you don't have time to like meditate on a rock for like 10 days. So I don't give myself forever to learn. I know that I will get it quickly. I know that it must be so. And I think that's a belief that helps me learn faster. Because if you think that it takes a long time to learn, it's going to take you longer. It doesn't have to take a long time. So I found myself in debilitating pain. I was also in a state of listening. I was also in a state of receiving. And I asked, I like called out and I asked, I was like, what do I need to learn? What do I need to know? What do I need to see? What can I see differently? Because I really didn't know how to see it differently. That's the ego traps you inside this hellish picture, and the ego is you can't see outside of it. Even though like that hellish picture is like one option in an infinite number of options, you still can't see a different way to function. Like I'm doing the best that I can, and this is the best that I can. So I had one thing that was off within me where I was looking at like my person and I was like, you can do better. And my person was like, I can't. And I was like, no, you can do better. And my person was like, I can't. And so when I said to the universe, I was like, please, like, how do I see this differently? How do I do differently? And the universe said to me, check this out, guys. The universe said to me, oh, you can't do better. And I was like, got it. Okay. So the universe is always teaching us, our guidance is always teaching us all along the way. And all of this, of course, this helps you manifest better. What do you think manifesting do you think manifesting has nothing to do with learning, nothing to do with changing yourself, nothing to do with resolving your blocks and your issues and your human limited thinking? Everything to do with that stuff. If you want to manifest big and from soul, if you want to manifest your true desires and not settle. So on that day, I cried out and I asked, and I was willing. You have to have a willing heart, not an impure motivation. It wasn't about the relationship anymore for me. I was way past that. I was like, I don't need this, but I know that I'm supposed to do something with this. So I just want to do what I'm supposed to do. To just show me how. And I had what people talk about if you watch like a near death experience, if you watch stories like this, people will talk about something called a life review, where they saw a situation like from a broader angle or like a different angle. Like they saw it and they felt what the other person felt, and they saw themselves from afar and they watched this play out and they like understood all the angles of the thing instead of being trapped inside it. I had a life review inside my body in a waking state, talking to the universe. And I was able to, the universe showed me the different way to see the situation. And instantly, the situation was cured because I gained a new perspective, a new compassionate, unconditional, loving perspective. And I'll tell you what I saw. First of all, when you gain a new perspective, your reality is changed instantly. Perspective is everything. Perspective manifests inside, outside. So I gained a new perspective. What I saw is that the all the ways that this person really, really did love me and had been showing me that and proving that to me over time consistently without fail in big ways. I don't know if you know about this, but stuff like this, okay? I hadn't seen that from my ego. My ego couldn't see that. I was able to see my own blocks that were keeping me from seeing how much this person really did obviously love me and nobody else, and obviously loved me more than they ever loved anybody in their entire life. I was able to see that. I saw the limitations and belief systems that were playing out for me that were painting the situation. I saw that I was functioning from pain of the past. And that's why I felt like I couldn't do better, because functioning from pain of the past, of course I couldn't do better. Of course, that's why I couldn't do better. And I was valid. But I also accessed a higher perspective because I chose to have a higher perspective. Unconditional love is a higher perspective that transcends all other perspectives and therefore transcends all other limitations in reality. I was able to see the love. And in that moment, all of the pain of the past disappeared and all of the conditionality disappeared. And I quantum leaped in such a way that changed my entire relationship with the physical world, period. And I started just feeling different, but also acting and behaving and doing things differently. I see the whole world differently, not just my person. I came into greater levels of unconditional love. This led me to changing my whole world in a miraculous way, learning how to be more miraculous and how to manifest more miraculously. My person, things are amazing. Things are amazing. The things that I'm manifesting are amazing. My person is amazing. There's nothing left but love now because I did this practice and I wanted it from the bottom of my heart. And I wasn't conditional on like needing to be with them or needing it to be like a love thing, because that would be selfish, right? If you like I just want like the love. That's not what I wanted. I had become like detached from the person. Like I acknowledged that I loved them, but I came to a place where I really, really didn't need them at all. I was willing to let it be whatever it needed to be. What changed everything is me being willing to know the truth and to grow, not being attached to an outcome. Now that I'm in this greater place of mastery, mastering energetics, mastering emotions, mastering certain vibrations, energies, communication with the universe, whatever, I realize that surrender is a huge, huge, huge part of the energy of living from unconditional love. Like you kind of stay in this state of surrender. And it doesn't mean that like you're missing out on anything, really. It doesn't mean that you don't experience love or other profundities. It doesn't mean that you can't have any desire. Knowing is also surrender. When you know something into being, you at the same time surrender it. Set it and forget it. When you know something, you automatically let it go because you know it. That means there's no more need to continue dwelling on it. So surrender is like that. It's like living in knowing. And it's living from a detached place. Unconditional love is detached. So I think that it comes down to your motivation behind why you want to manifest a thing. I talk about impure motivation all the time, and I tell you guys, it will mess you up and you won't manifest what you want. You have to be interested in actually learning. What is it I'm supposed to learn here? Growing. How am I supposed to grow here? What really is the point? Make the point like a purposeful point. What am I supposed to learn from the situation? Because the second that you learn what you're supposed to learn from the situation, that's when your person and everything else changes, but only when you surrender the needs of the egoic self. Surrender the ego, manifest from soul. So that's it. All right. If you're still watching the video, that means that you liked it. So make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell, hit that all button so that you know every time that I'm going live. I'm going live with this podcast, which is Manifesting from Ego to Soul, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. If you want the deeper teachings, I go through in my Manifesting University from the basics and foundational things that you need all the way up to quantum leap, advanced instant manifestation teachings. Every single month, I'm taking you through a program. So if you want to take my program every single month, you can gain access immediately to whatever content that we've already covered. You can join live. You're going to get homework, practices, Q&A, all the things. Okay. That link is in the description below, and I'll also put it in the pinned comment below. Comment and let me know how this helped you, what you took away from it, how you're going to use this, or how you already have, and share your experience with us. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow live on YouTube.